Hey guys, Kristen here. Today we're talking about how to handle it when things go wrong when you travel alone and just traveling in general. Obviously, you want your trip to be awesome, nothing to ever go wrong, but it is still life and there's going to be ups and downs. But there are simple ways that we can deal with a lot of the things that could happen. And so these are 7 of the main things that tend to happen, many of which have happened to me, and how I dealt with them. The first thing is, I think, quite common. What happens if you lose your debit card or your entire wallet maybe gets stolen and you no longer have access to money? This has happened to me 3 times now. There are 2 pieces of advice I want to give you that I personally didn't follow and I really should have. One is to have multiple debit cards stashed in different locations. So if you have one debit card that maybe the ATM just doesn't give back to you, or you forget it in the ATM and move on, or your wallet gets lifted, if you have another debit card stashed somewhere else in your luggage, then you can easily just fall back on that and use that one. Simple. So what do you do for money in this case? First thing you want to do, obviously, is call and cancel that card. You want to let your bank know that you need them to Western Union use some money. I bank with Charles Schwab, I always have, because I really like that they don't charge foreign transaction fees and that they refund ATM fees. The times that I've needed them to Western Union me some money, they've done so without charging me. Another thing that you can ask them to do, and that I always had to do, was find an address where they can send that card. So one time it was a dive shop in Thailand that I had been on a trip with. They were willing to receive the card. It could be maybe a hotel you're going to go stay at. It could maybe be a friend who lives there, or a friend of a friend, or just some reliable address where you can get that card delivered. And they can usually get that to you within a week. Another thing that I thought about way later and think is actually way smarter is one time I was in Santiago and a guy in my hostel had lost his debit card. So what I told him to do was actually just PayPal me some money, and then I pulled that out of the ATM and gave it to him. Because I have a bank that refunds ATM fees and doesn't charge me foreign transaction fees, it cost me absolutely nothing to do that for him. So if you meet someone who's down on their luck, or you happen to be that person, ask someone who you have a good rapport with if they can do that for you. It's a really simple way to get money without even having to bother with the Western Union. Thing number 2 that seems to happen all the time is getting lost. You would think that my sense of direction would get better over time, but I just hold that this is an innate quality I do not possess and that I generally lack spatial awareness. This park covers over 800 acres apparently, or maybe, don't quote me on that. Is it 800,000? I'm not very spatially aware, but anyway. So I tend to be super reliant on Google Maps, and especially Maps.me. Okay, I think this is where I make my first turn. That way. I gotta check my map first. This is an app I really like that you can just download and it works completely offline. You don't need any kind of connection. The caveat is you need to download this map before you're offline. But let's say you didn't do that and you're just completely lost, you don't know where you are. The next best thing that I'd say you can do is look for a cafe or a place that advertises having Wi-Fi. Dip into there, kind of recollect yourself, and then use the Wi-Fi to orient where you are and where you want to go. Another good thing that you can always do is if you're staying at a hotel, they probably have a card. So always grab that card when you're going to go out for the day. And then if you happen to get lost, you can always get into a taxi and give them that card because it will have the address on it. In lieu of all of those options, maybe there's no Wi-Fi anywhere, try to talk to people and get a sense from talking to them of where something is. Sometimes all you have to say is the name of a place that you're looking for, and they can at least send you in the right direction. Just keep asking the next person until you find your way back to wherever you're trying to go. Next, what if something really valuable to you gets stolen, like a camera or something that you spent a lot of money on? Hopefully you have travel insurance that will cover this item, but what you need to do is get a police report, because most travel insurance is not going to reimburse you unless you can get that police report stating that the item was stolen. So make sure that you do that. But another thing to really note is that most travel insurance is hyper-focused on health rather than belongings. So usually they don't have great coverage for items. Sometimes your credit card, if it's a good credit card company, might offer some kind of coverage, but again, you probably need to prove that it was stolen, in which case you need that police report. If you're not a professional person and you're not using your gear professionally, if you have homeowners or rental insurance, Sometimes they will even provide coverage and replacement for these items as well. But what I try to do is always bring this PackSafe wire mesh bag protector with me. You can put the rain cover on your bag and then just wrap this around it. Basically, this makes you the most annoying person ever to rob because someone would have to cut these. I just feel a lot better if I'm staying in a place that maybe doesn't have lockers or doesn't have a safe. I don't even know how many potential thefts this has saved me from. I would say this is one of the most important purchases I've made in my travel career as well. Another thing that I do is I just make sure that my valuables are not left in a car, are not left unattended by me. Knock on wood, I've been really lucky that nothing super high ticket and important to me has ever been stolen. I think just because I am pretty hyper vigilant about making sure that my gear is never left fully unattended. Number 4 thing that can happen is you get sick or hurt. This is another reason why having travel insurance is a really good idea. Usually you're going to have to pay out first and they reimburse you. So just make sure when you do go to a doctor or a clinic that you make sure that you get everything that happened itemized and that you have a clear receipt so that you can prove that you got medical attention and that you deserve to be reimbursed for that. In terms of finding a doctor, if you're in a really tiny town and there's just one option, then I guess that makes it really simple for you. But a few times I've gotten sick abroad, what I end up looking for is like the best, highest rated hospital or doctor in the area. I've been to Bangkok Hospital in Phuket, really high-end, very good hospital, but still not that expensive. I found another doctor that specifically catered to foreigners in Ho Chi Minh City when I had like a weird skin thing going on, and the best part about that was they spoke English, and yes, it was a little bit more expensive, but it didn't matter because I was getting that reimbursed. So I would look to nomad forums, Facebook groups that are unique to that city, maybe expats in that city. I would also just look at good old-fashioned Google reviews to try to see if people like that particular hospital or doctor. There tends to be doctors that expats go to if it's a town that has expats. And so that's what I would look at if it were me. If you're seriously hurt, again, that's another reason to have travel insurance, because a lot of times they can fly a family member to you. They can help you get back home where you can get further help, or maybe to another country that is a little bit better equipped to deal with whatever your situation or issue is. And then hopefully you don't get stuck with the entire bill. Thing number 5 that tends to happen, a language barrier. This is a big concern that people often ask me about before they start traveling, like what happens if I go to a place where I don't speak the language? That's my experience in most of the places that I've gone. Out of 60 countries I've been to, I probably spoke the native language in 10 of them. So there's a few things I like to do before I go. One, you can download the Google Translate so that you have it available to you offline. This is super helpful just to be able to type something in and show it to someone. When I was looking for a specific star-shaped platform in Lombok in Indonesia, I was able to just type that in, show it to the lady at my guest house, and she knew exactly what I was talking about. Helped me get an ojek, which is like a little motorbike taxi, to go visit this thing. And I don't know how I would have communicated that to her otherwise. So it's great to have that option, and it can also help you to learn the language as well. Another thing, don't discount context, the point and shrug method, and just saying one word and the person understanding. You know, if you're at a restaurant, just pointing to a picture or pointing to a meal someone else is eating and being like, yeah, I want that. Really simple, really easy. You didn't need any language for that. They already know that what you're talking about is food because you are in a restaurant. So it's things like this where it seems like it's going to be a really big deal, but then once you get there and you're on the ground, it's actually not that big of a deal. Talking about pricing and haggling, again, you can just do that with a calculator. Really simple. Are you going to have frustrating situations come up from time to time? Undeniably, but this is kind of part of traveling. Like, it's not always going to be simple and easy and straightforward, and that's totally okay. But trust me when I say language is not as big of a deal as you might be worried about. Number 6. What happens if there is a significant delay in your travel plans that's really holding you back?
I was supposed to be going to Myanmar today, and I will not be getting on the flight I was supposed to be on.
I know I keep harping on this, But travel insurance will usually reimburse you if it's more than 24 hours of a delay. That could come with a credit card, or it can come with some travel insurance that you've already purchased. Usually these policies are really not that expensive, so they are worth getting. But I've definitely had situations before where the weather, or it was a holiday, or for some reason I experienced a really significant delay in my plans. Apart from getting reimbursed if you possibly can for tickets that you've already bought or things that you're going to miss, it's not at the end of the day that big of a deal, let's be honest. It just means that you reevaluate your plans, you make a change. Oftentimes these are the experiences that I look back on. You know, they were character building. Maybe they actually led me down a road that ended up being better for me. Maybe they sort of steered me in a direction where I had a different experience that was equally, if not even more enjoyable.
This is okay, I can do this.
My best advice to you when things like that happen are not to cry over spilt milk for too long, but just get straight to trying to come up with a solution. Sometimes the alternatives that we come up with can be even better than our original plans. Finally, number 7, if you are a victim of a crime. Obviously, this is a worst case scenario. No one ever wants this to happen. It's really rare, to be honest, when you're traveling, especially if you take precautions, and I do talk about that in my video about 10 mistakes not to make when you're traveling alone. But if it should happen, again, it's really good to go get a police report of the situation, especially if you're going to be taking out any kind of claim. Sometimes the police do not give a shit. And that's just unfortunately the situation where you are traveling in that country. They just don't want to do their job. There's always the option, if this is a serious crime, of going to your embassy or consulate. And that might mean you have to go to the capital city of whatever country you're in. But if you've been a victim of a serious crime and you really need help, then being able to get help from your embassy is often one of the best things you can do, especially if you've lost a passport or something has happened where you just really need additional help beyond what anyone else can give you. It's more than petty theft. It's more than like a minor crime. Something really serious has happened. That's what your embassy is for. It's to help people who are abroad and having issues, to help with diplomacy between the countries, obviously. Do take advantage of those services that are offered by your embassy or consulate if you really, really need to. Obviously, no one wants anything to go wrong when they're traveling, especially alone, but I will say that these moments when things looked like they had gone really wrong for me are often when I had the most heartwarming people kind of come and help me out of a situation, when I really figured out what I was made of. The things that were difficult is where I experienced the most growth. I can look back on a lot of that now and see how it was all ultimately really good for me and made me into a more confident person. I hope that you can eventually look back on things that are not ideal about your travels and laugh about them, or just say that you learned from them, but don't let fear of what might happen, what might go wrong, prevent you from going. I have tons of advice on this channel for first-time solo travelers, or even if it's your 4th or 5th time, places you can go, ways that you can plan, and things not to do in order to stay safe. So I hope you have an amazing time, and thanks for being here. Bye.